Danielle from the Danielle Nicole channel started this collab that she is calling Healthy, Quick and Easy Dinner Ideas. And I thought this was the perfect time to break out this recipe. So forget the 5 W's, and I'm a retired English teacher, so I can say that. Because what I'm going to teach you today is the 5 C's. This is my Crockpot cream cheese chicken chili, a mouthful in more ways than one. And definitely quick, easy, and healthy. So if you're looking for a healthy dinner that you can just throw in the Crockpot and have ready when you get home, stick around because I'm going to show you how to do it coming up next. Hello and welcome to my kitchen. My name's Roy. I'm a home cook and amateur baker, and I am here on this channel sharing recipes that have helped me to lose over 125 pounds, whether those recipes are mine or someone else's, although they're usually mine. Now today is no exception. This is my recipe, but I didn't come up with it overall. This is for a Crockpot cream cheese chicken chili, which you'll find all over the place. I know my friend Marcel over at A Little Fish in the Kitchen has made this. I know that Alicia Lynn has made it. I know a few others who have made it. Whether it's Weight Watchers versions or not, this is not unique to me, but this take on it is. Now, before I go on, I did want to mention that this is part of a collab with Danielle Nicole. She is calling this Healthy, Quick, and Easy Dinner Ideas. And that is definitely what you're going to be getting from this recipe. But if you're looking for other recipe ideas, check out the other links in the description box for the other channels that are doing this collab, and you'll get a lot more recipes that are healthy, quick, and easy. Now mine, as the name suggests, is going to be made in the crock pot. And I have that setting over here so that we can go over the ingredients. I have here, of course, my cooking spray. I'm going to spray the crock pot, but you could use a liner if you prefer. Here I have 1.5 pounds of chicken breast. You don't have to be that accurate. I'm just doing it for the sake of the calories and macros. As far as bites and points, it won't really make a difference if we go a little more, a little less. I have here 1 can of diced tomatoes with green chilies. Now the brand name for that is Rotel. Typically that's when somebody says Rotel, you automatically know that it's going to be diced tomatoes with green chilies. This is a store brand. The difference is that the Rotel, and even a few of the other store brands that I did see, are about 10 ounces a can. This one is 14.5 ounces. So you can use either. There's really not that much liquid in it that is gonna throw off the recipe, whether you use the 10 ounce or the 14.5. Just don't go too much bigger than that. Here I have a 15-ounce can of black beans, and those have been drained and rinsed. Here I have 8 ounces of my homemade light cream cheese. Now you don't have to make your own, you can get the store-bought, but it may alter the bites and points because this 8 ounces is 0 bites, 0 points, because it's made with Greek yogurt, non-fat Greek yogurt. Now, as I've mentioned before, I made this as part of my first video. It was an introduction and then this cream cheese. Then I separated out the cream cheese as its own tutorial. So I'll link those down in the description box, and I'll also throw a card for one of them up here. Here I have 1 medium onion that's been diced, and you can use more or less. That would be about a cup if you were doing frozen, as my friend Bree does. No shame in that. You do what you gotta do. Here I have a 15-ounce can of corn, and that is drained. I have seen recipes that they don't drain it. I just think that that would make it a little too liquid, and I want this a little creamier, a little thicker, like a chili. Here I have a 15-ounce can of white beans. These are cannellini beans, but you can use any beans you want. Honestly, you can swap out the beans. You could swap out the corn if you want. If you'd prefer to put peas in there, go ahead. But if you'd prefer to use kidney beans and pinto beans or whatever you have on hand, that's fine. Don't fuss too much about getting the exact same items. If you don't have it, can't find it, you don't like it, change it up. Here I have 1/2 cup of chicken broth. That is just going to give us a little liquid to help everything start to cook and meld together without scorching on the bottom. And here I have 3 tablespoons of ranch seasoning. It is the powdered dressing mix. If you want, you can just use a packet. I have a big container, so it would be 3 tablespoons, but just 1 packet would be sufficient. Now for the next 8 items, you can actually swap those all out for 1 packet of taco seasoning mix. I don't have taco seasoning mix on hand, but I always have all the spices that I need to make it. So you can also, if you need taco seasoning mix, you can take these 8 items and you can combine them and make your own at home. If you don't have a packet at home and you needed one, or you can't find any or what have you, you don't want to get it, then combining these 8 items will approximate a packet of taco seasoning mix. So those ingredients are 1 tablespoon of chili powder, 1 teaspoon of cumin, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of paprika, 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder, 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, and 1/4 teaspoon of dried oregano. Now the paprika that I'm using smoked just to give it a little more depth of flavor, but regular paprika is fine. All right, so those are all of the ingredients. Let me shuffle a few things around. We're gonna get this thing going. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna need to do is combine all of our seasonings so that we can season our chicken. So I have my ranch dressing, the chili powder, cumin, pepper, salt, paprika, onion powder, garlic powder, and oregano. And I'm just going to stir that together as carefully as I can, since I chose such a small bowl to do this in. But you just want to combine it until it's one homogeneous color and you don't see like chunks of any particular seasoning. And that looks good right there. So now I'm going to take my chicken breasts and just take about half of this and season the breast with it. Just going to generously sprinkle that on top. Then I'm going to flip it and season the other side. Just approximately half. You don't have to be too precise about it. And then what I like to do is just any of the seasoning that fell off, try to pick it up with any spots that I see that were not covered, so none of this deliciousness goes to waste. So that's done. Move that to the side and bring in the crock pot. Now what I'm going to do is first spray the crock pot just lightly. It doesn't have to be too precise because nothing in here is really going to stick to it. Now I have a certain order that I like to put them into the crock pot. You can deviate from it if you prefer. I just find this way works the best for me. Is I start with the onions and I sprinkle those into the bottom, because that way it gives the chicken a little bed to rest on so it's not sitting directly on the heat, and it also lets those onions really cook down. Then I'm going to put the chicken breasts on top of that. Then we're going to add in our veggies. I'm going to start with the corn, white beans, black beans, Rotel style tomatoes go on top, because that allows the juices to seep down through the other ingredients. So that way the beans and everything are getting some of that flavoring. If I put the tomatoes in first, it would have been down at the bottom and all of the other things wouldn't have gotten some of that flavor mixed in as it's cooking. So that's why I like to do it that way, but you don't have to. Okay, I'm just going to spread that out a little bit and sprinkle on the rest of our seasoning mix right over the top here. Then I'm going to pour on the chicken broth, and that's going to help those seasonings to kind of meld down into the other ingredients as well. And I am just going to give that a little minor toss just to get that down into the moisture there. Now you may be saying to yourself, but Roy, where is the cream cheese? This is Crock-Pot cream cheese chicken chili after all. Well, typically, this is where the cream cheese would go in most recipes. However, the cream cheese that I'm using, as I said, is made from non-fat Greek yogurt. So there's no fat in here. And what would happen if I put it on now is that it would solidify and kind of curdle a little bit, and it would be really difficult to work into the rest of the chili. So we are actually saving the cream cheese for last, because that way it's not going to curdle, it's not going to get thick, You're going to get the nice creamy texture that you want and not have to worry about trying to break up a cooked block of cream cheese. Now, if you are using store-bought, it may be okay to put it in here now because I've seen plenty of recipes that do that. But I'm putting it in at the end. So I'm going to cover this with our lid. And there are two options here. You can set it on low for 5 to 6 hours, or you can do it on high for 2 to 3. Because it's so late in the day, I am going to do it on high for 2 to 3 hours. But if you're going to work, you put it on low. By the time you get back, it'll be ready to finish up. So turning this on, giving me 2 to 3 hours, and I'll be back. Okay, so it's been about 2.5 hours now on high. Again, if you're cooking it on high, it's about 2 to 3 hours. If you're cooking it on low, it's about 5 to 6. All right, so the next thing we need to do is we're going to remove the chicken breast. And you can see that it is bubbling in there. So I'm actually going to turn this off. Because we're going to be adding the cream cheese, I don't want to add the cream cheese while it's too hot. But first, let me get out those chicken breasts. And one thing I did want to mention, in the taco seasoning, I do have in the recipe that you can also add a 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes or any sort of spicy chili, cayenne, what have you. My partner Paul is not a fan of spicy foods, so I tend to opt away from that and just add my own hot sauce at the table. But that is an option on there as well. Okay, so the chicken's been removed. The heat has been turned off. Now I want to add in my cream cheese, and the cream cheese is at room temperature because if it's too cold when it hits the hot liquid, it's going to want to seize up and it may curdle. So you want this at room temperature so it's as close to this temperature as possible. But we're just going to add that in and then just stir it through. And you'll see it melting as we get that incorporated and lightening up the color of our chili. But see, I did make the mistake the first time of doing this as all of the other recipes had it, with the cream cheese going in at the beginning, and it was almost impossible to incorporate because it had formed a solid block. So this is definitely much better adding it in at the end, and the residual heat from the chili is going to bring the cream cheese up to temperature with everything else. So I'm going to put the lid on this for now, and I'm going to shred up my chicken breast. I have 2 forks, and that's how I'm going to shred them. I know that you can do it in a stand mixer or with the mixer blades, but that makes it a little too fine for me. I prefer some texture to my chicken, so I like to do it by hand. But you could also just chop it up if you'd prefer, make it a little easier on yourself. But let me get that shredded and I'll be back. Okay, so I've shredded up the rest of my chicken and I'm going to add that back into the chili. Now, if while you were shredding it, it seems unlikely considering the time that it cooks and the temperature, but say that you had an extra large piece of chicken breast and there was still a little bit of pink when you were shredding it, don't worry about it because once you add it back in here shredded, it'll be thin enough that the residual heat will cook it through for you. Just stir all of that delicious shredded chicken through and voila, there you have it, some delicious Crockpot cream cheese chicken chili. Say that 5 times fast. This is going to be delicious for dinner tonight. I have some rice cooking on the stove, but you can serve it as is with some crackers or what have you. You can serve it over a baked potato, that is delicious, or over pasta. It's your call. Either way, this is great, especially for meal prep or if you're cooking for a larger family. This is great because this is going to make 8 servings. Each serving is going to be about 1.5 cups, roughly. It may be a little more, maybe a little less, but this is absolutely delicious. Paul really enjoyed it, which I was a little surprised by just because he's not a fan of beans, but he really enjoyed this. He told me how much he liked it. So that is the seal of approval. If Paul likes it, I know it's ready to pass on to you guys. So as I said, this will make 8 servings. Each serving is going to be 0 bites, 0 blue points. I am on the Healthy Better Balance plan, which is equivalent to the old WW Blue plan, which is basically, I guess, their simplified plan. So 0 bites, 0 blue points. So it gives you a little free rein to have some rice, to have potato, have something a little more substantial that you may not normally have, because this isn't going to take any of your bites or points. Now, if you are following calories, 1 serving of this would be 276 calories. And if you are following macros, the fat would be 3.6 grams, the carbs would be 30 grams, the fiber would be 7.4 grams, and the protein would be 31.6 grams, again doing it as a serving for 8. If you change the serving size, obviously those will change. The bites and points really shouldn't be affected. But there you have my contribution to this healthy, quick and easy dinner ideas collab. Thank you, Danielle and Nicole, for coming up with this collab. I think this was a great idea. We're going to get all sorts of delicious dinner ideas. And again, the other channels doing this collab will be linked down in my description box. And if you're new here, I hope that you will consider subscribing if you're looking for some weight loss recipes. I have plenty. And let me know in the comments whose channel you came from so I know who to thank for sending you over. And while we're on this subject, if you wouldn't mind doing the usual, like, subscribe, comment, and share, and hit the notification bell. It really helps out my channel. And if you hit that notification bell, you'll be notified whenever a video comes out, especially one that's not on a day I typically do it, like today. While we're on the subject of today, if you are watching this earlier in the day, 2 p.m. today, Eastern Standard Time, I am doing a live to celebrate my 2 years on YouTube. So hopefully you can also join me for that. Now, if you want this recipe, it's going to be linked directly down below in the description box, as is the link to my blog itself if you're looking for any of my recipes. Also down there, you will find links to my Amazon storefront, Built Bar rewards, Fetch rewards, Skinny Syrups code, and my social media if you want to follow me over there. I have my Instagram and 2 Facebook groups that I'm part of, so check out that description box for all sorts of information. Underneath the title of this video, you'll see more or show more. Just tap on that and it will open up the description box, and that's where you can find all of this information. Well, I guess I'm going to go check on my rice and get ready for a nice hearty dinner. And I hope you'll be doing the same yourself very soon. So until next time, bye.